Welcome to season 11 of the Parenting Aces podcast, part of the Tennis Channel Podcast Network. I'm your host, Lisa Stone, and we got another great episode for you this week with our guest, Barry Fulcher of the UK's Progress Tour. Barry was last on the pod back in 2018 when he was newly involved in his Progress Tour, which is a prize money tennis tour that is open to junior players, collegiate players, professional players, and everyone in between. And now, 3.5 years later, he has done so much incredible work that I wanted him to come back on the pod and talk to y'all about upcoming events for 2022 and how his events will incorporate both UTR and WTN ratings. So those of you concerned about what's happening with ratings and how that's going to impact your players for college recruiting, the Progress Tour is going to be a great series of events to get involved in if you have the means and time and willingness to travel to the UK. Before I bring Barry on, just a quick reminder, if you haven't done so already, we'd love for you to sign up on our website and get full access to all we have to offer, including our consultations that used to be part of our premium membership, but now that that's gone by the wayside, we're just offering these consults available to you anytime that you need them. You can sign up at parentingaces.com/shop, and you'll see lots of different options there. All right, for now, sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with Barry Fulcher of the Progress Tour. Barry Fulcher, it's so nice to see you again. I cannot believe 2018 was our last podcast.
Hey Lisa, how are you? I know, time flies, hey, and a lot's happened.
I mean, it's been a crazy 2.5 years, or 3.5 years, but yeah, I'm really happy to see you. I have been getting all of your emails about all the events that you're putting on over in the UK. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to reach out to him and see if I can get him back on the pod to bring us all up to speed on the Progress Tour and what's coming for 2022.
Yeah, it's great to catch up again. So yeah, things have moved on, I suppose, in that time. I've been on a bit of a journey with it. It was still fairly early days when we chatted
Yes.
back then, way back then. So yeah, it's COVID kind of changed things a little bit. I had set a kind of clear schedule of events back in 2020. I felt in 2019 I'd had some larger events, but back then, which was larger events, decent amount of prize money for the winners, but I felt like I had gone down a slightly different route with the events than I'd wanted to, and kind of the level of prize money wasn't quite what I wanted. As I said to you before, I was self-funding it, and it was a struggle, and I made a decision to do less events actually, and put my focus onto really trying to grow and establish a smaller number of events, but go back to the core of why I set the tour up in the first place, which was to provide, bona fide earning opportunities for British players. So kind of 2020, I had a full schedule of, what was my main marquee events, 8 Progress Tour prize money events. And also some one-day match play events. They're quite desirable over here for players and parents that are on the kind of college pathway, if you like. But yeah, not trying to do too many events of a kind of smaller amount of money, but do less events with a good size kind of prize pot. And that was the plan for 2020. Then, as we all know, things changed quite dramatically. And kind of early in that kind of lockdown, the first lockdown as we had it here, which was April 2020. I just kind of had some discussions with Jamie Murray. I'd done some projects with him before, and he was already kind of planning an event for the summer of 2020 when we came out the other side of kind of lockdown. And I, quite early on then, had decided to try and do a return to tennis kind of event around the Wimbledon period. So I suppose Jamie kind of really did an amazing job of a Battle of the Brits, which has gone on to be a huge success here.
Yeah.
I can't say I've matched that, but whilst he did a men's event, I did the Progress Tour Women's Champs, which was a much bigger event than I'd done before and than I'd ever planned to do. Really, it kind of snowballed. It was the timing of such that there was no tennis on, and then it was a £30,000 event, prize pot.
Nice.
And we went on a journey with that. Really, it kind of what I wanted it to be was for that second tier of players. And I was approached by a couple of British female players by chance that they wanted to do an event, and we kind of collaborated. The three of us worked on putting it together. We ran it at the National Tennis Centre, and it was still very strict guidelines there. So it was a behind closed doors event. And we went on a bit of a journey, as I say. So we had all the top British women in the event, apart from Jo Konta, at one stage. It didn't quite end up that way for various reasons, but for me, it was a step into the unknown, a step into a world of kind of proper established events. It was live streamed on the BBC, and it was the most viewed tennis event in the UK that summer, apart from Battle of the Brits, in fact, but the BBC's most watched tennis event of the summer.
Wow.
In the obvious absence of Wimbledon.
Right.
So yeah, I love doing it, and it really gave the Progress Tour a platform that it hadn't had before.
Gotta ask, was Emma Raducanu a participant?
She was in it, and then she was out, and she participated in part of it. We did a tie-break tens event, a collaboration with them on the Friday evening, which was a really good event. She played in that. So yeah, she was in and around the event. She was didn't play the main event, but had participated in that Friday evening.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a really good, strong cohort of girls in the end, of female British players who were all really keen to play. I think that was the message of the moment. Really, was that desire to get back on the match court for pro players that just hadn't had the opportunity to.
Right. And I mean, it's very similar to what happened here in the States with the challenger level, right? And our USTA pro circuit events and all of those tournaments that provided earning opportunities for those players who aren't, at the level yet where they're getting into the slams or, the masters, 250, 500, 1000 series events, but still need to support themselves. They still have to pay their bills. They still have to pay their coaches and buy equipment and all those things. And everything just disappeared for a while for them.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why, I was so keen to, as well as everybody in the tennis industry, coaches, as you say, commentators, it's not just the players, that the whole network that lies behind events. So, I love doing it. And we had Katie Bolter beating Jodie Burridge in the final. And yeah, I really enjoyed doing it, and it took a lot of planning, and it was an eye opener in terms of that level of event with the commentary and the whole works going on behind it. So it was great. It was great to kind of put something on of that stature.
So do you find that you're getting participation from high level juniors who are maybe, gearing up for a professional career or gearing up to come to the States and play college tennis, but trying to kind of balance their needs of high level competition with, finishing school or doing all those things that prepare them to get ready for that next step?
Yeah, it's a real combination of those that are looking at the US college route. It's we've talked before about that with Sarah and I, the project
Mhm.
we have with Student of the Game, and we really tried to push all avenues and all pathways, not just the feeling is that sometimes parents and players can gravitate one way because everybody else is doing it.
Yeah.
And I think it's it's really good for whichever pathway a child or a parent are looking at, that they have the opportunity to, whether it's US college, that they have the opportunity to get good quality matches, level based matches, and build their UTR as it is currently, as well as those whatever route they're going, whether it's pro route. I've got an event coming up where it's a 10K event in Cardiff to start the year. And with that kind of prize money and with wildcards up for grabs as well, it attracts the higher echelons, 500-600 ATP WTA players. So there's that kind of draw as well. But as you say, there's some top juniors that now I've got an event next weekend actually in Cardiff, a new series, a pilot of a new series I'm running called Compete and Earn, which is I suppose a cross between my major prize money events and the kind of one-day match play events that I was running this year. I'm not a huge fan personally of the match plays that are kind of ticking boxes and you turn up and play matches. So this new series, I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but
No,
I'll
it's
give you
okay.
I'll give you the background on the new series, and then I'll come to my point. It's a mini money events, I suppose. It's kind of smaller prize money events, 3 tiers of UTR base, kind of top tier is 9+, tier 2 is 7 to 9, and then tier 3 is 5 to 6.99. So there's prize money, player support at every tier. And I've this will be the first one next weekend. I'm really excited going into next year what that will bring, because it goes back to the core of why I set the tour up. It's not a box ticking exercise, but it's real development opportunities, earning opportunities, and a chance for players to progress. Now I'll come to my point. We've got next weekend with Hannah Klugman, who is one of the top. I think she's one of the top in the world, 12 and under. She's wanting match play before she heads over to Orange Bowl, over to you guys the following week, and she's playing in our kind of pilot event in Cardiff. So she's pitching herself against kind of teenage guys that 3, 4, 5 years older than her, but where her UTR kind of matches up pretty well. And I've spoken to her coach, and for him it's a perfect kind of preparation for her to get matches, to go out and then compete on the international kind of stage, really. So there's that side of it. There's it offers different things to different levels of player, I suppose.
Sure. And just a reminder to the listeners, we are recording this in November of 2021, but you're not hearing it until January of 2022. So by the time this airs, Barry, your events will have been massive successes, and I'm sure I'll be retweeting all of your tweets about how well they went. So just a reminder there. But no, I think it's really cool that you have stepped in to create events to fulfill the needs of players at a variety of levels and a variety of stages in their development and career. And I think, you are a prime example of the private sector stepping in and supplementing where perhaps the national governing bodies just can't do it. It's just too massive an effort for the national governing body, but a private entity can, form relationships and tap into those relationships to put on these fantastic events, even offering prize money as you're doing, but also furthering the development, furthering the journey for these players, regardless of where they are currently.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think, my view is, and I think I shared it with you when we spoke before, is that for me, a role of a governing body is providing opportunity. And that hasn't always been the case here. There's been lulls where there's so few events in terms of ranking, in terms of prize money. And that's really why I started things off. For me, that is with a federation that has resources like we do and the USTA do. I think it is, you provide opportunity and let the players, earn their support and earn it by merit. So I mean, to be fair, things have really, looking towards 2022 in the UK, the landscape is vastly different to what it's been. When we last spoke, there was I think I remember there was probably 6 futures events on then. For a country of our size is pretty horrific. And the prize money tour had been cut to the point of extinction almost. I'm really excited to see what next year brings. I've seen a tentative schedule, which, we're talking futures back up to what they used to be 15 years ago, which is kind of 15+.
Nice.
Between the Progress Tour, the British tour, which are our kind of established LTA prize money tour, and a new independent tour that kind of came about in lockdown last year, the UK Pro League. That there's a serious schedule put together for British players, where we're talking, from Jan 3rd, where my first event of the year kicks into middle of May. I think, players could actually stick around here and play every single week. So
Nice.
it's exciting. That it's a shame it took COVID for those kind of changes to happen, but the silver lining from that is British tennis has kind of woken up to the importance of the domestic landscape, and how important it is for British players to be catered for.
Right. And I mean, you mentioned COVID as a contributing factor, but what about having a major champion? Is that a huge factor too? The fact that Emma won US Open and, shined a light again on British tennis. I mean, it's been a few years since Andy Murray won.
Yeah. I mean, funny, I read something this week that Judy Murray had reposted, the legacy of Andy and Jamie, particularly up in Scotland in terms of facility development, and the consensus that hasn't been capitalized on. And fast forward to an amazing journey from Emma, a few months ago. It's just incredible, and it has brought that fervor back of winning something like that in the manner that she did. Yeah, it captured everybody. I think it was
Sure.
what I read, it was the most watched women's match in the last 30 years, which is incredible. And it showed that that kind of I genuinely was more interested. And I think there was more interest in the women's side of it than the men's side,
For sure.
even with Novak involved in it. So yeah, the effect of that has been pretty huge here, and I hope that we are able to capitalize now and continue capitalizing on that kind of success.
Awesome. One of the things I do, and this is how I keep up with you, is I'm subscribed to your e-newsletter and I get all your emails announcing your events. And what precipitated me reaching out to you to come back on the podcast was you had released your calendar of events for 2022. And I noticed at the bottom of the email that you talked about Universal Tennis, UTR, but also World Tennis Number, WTN.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what you're seeing in the UK around how UTR is being utilized versus how WTN is being utilized, because here in the States, we're expecting World Tennis Number to come into use starting 2022, though as of the recording date, I don't have any official news other than meetings that I've been privy to notes on. So just curious what you're seeing there.
Yeah, I think I speak with the head of competitions here in the UK fairly regularly. He's kind of kept me up to speed with developments here. There was delays here. Mm-hmm. I know there was teething problems over with you guys as well in terms of the tournament setup and structure. Sure. Which I think is being worked through from what I understand. The WTN, they waited here and they launched it about a month ago. So there has definitely been the interest in something new. Mm-hmm. As everybody's kind of finding out what they are, and I think Keith Carter, who's the head of competitions, was saying, there's been a huge increase of non-registered, let's say LTA rated players seeking out the WTN and getting rated for the first time, which is part of the attraction of similar to the UTR is engaging with players that perhaps haven't been rated or have not had the interest in a rating for whatever reason.
Right.
And that's, I think, one of the goals of it, that it engages with club players, amateur players, as well as your kind of juniors, which we've discussed before. The appetite for ratings is pretty extreme, should we say.
That's a nice way to say it.
There's a desire for it, that's for sure.
Yes. And let me just interrupt one sec, sorry,
Yeah.
but to clarify for those not familiar with World Tennis Number, this is the ITF's version of a rating system for tennis, and it is similar to UTR in that it's looking at level, not necessarily how far you got in a tournament, but rather you're head to head against similar players or players much better or worse. And it's a way to promote level-based play, but also an international way for players to compare themselves to one another, much like UTR. UTR and ITF tried to come to some sort of business relationship agreement, but were unable to do so. So ITF went forward with developing the World Tennis Number. So that's kind of what that is. And USTA has been talking about adopting WTN because, again, UTR and USTA were unable to come to a business agreement that was suitable for both parties. So USTA decided to go with WTN. We don't yet know how that's going to impact tournament selection and seeding here in the US. Maybe by the time this airs, we'll have more information, but as of November 2021, we don't. So.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, from what I know of it, I kind of was privy to some of the kind of detail that went into the algorithm. It's quite exciting to see what it brings, and as you say, it is similar to UTR. It's also different in a number of ways that I think are quite exciting to see how that beds down. There's a lot of data that's gone into it, and I think data is king, isn't it, at
Yes.
the moment? I think that the ownership of that data, which is where some of the challenges lie, I think, in terms of agreements among those bodies you mentioned. But for me personally, as an event organizer, my view is the same now as it was then, that I think ratings should happen in the background and not at the forefront of everything. It has become the competition instead of a byproduct of it. And I kind of run my events off a platform Court Hive. And I was then in control of that data. I was able to submit to UTR. I was submitting to the LTA as well, so results going into the LTA rating and now the WTN. Because again, I've used the UTR since the outset to structure events, and I think the rating is useful for enabling, WTN and UTR, useful for structuring draws and enabling level-based play, which is also king, and progressive play, which is at the core of the Progress Tour. So I still use it. My event next week is based on UTR, but I want to kind of remain neutral and put the results where I want them to go. And apart from that bit you saw on my mail out, just kind of highlighting where the results go, I try to keep it in the background as much as possible. There's the acceptance list, and let's crack on with the tournament.
Yeah.
And it's earned, the way that kind of mini series, as I said, links together is the two finalists of Tier 3, for example. They earn player support from that event, and they get 4 matches in 2 days. But at the next event, they get the opportunity to play up in Tier 2, and likewise in Tier 2, they earn their progression up within the tournament rather than necessarily by way of a huge ratings jump immediately. They get the opportunity to pitch themselves against tough opponents, the progression element. So that's kind of my view remains the same on that, really. And I know there's political goings on behind the scene, and for me, I think both ratings are of equal value.
Do you think we need 2?
Probably not, but some of those issues you highlighted there of the inability to come to an agreement with a number of governing bodies and UTF, actually, not just the USTA and the LTA and the ITF. I think personally that the UTR had an opportunity to partner with. There was a huge void there, back 4 or 5 years ago, when UTR was coming to the fore, where there was an opportunity to work with some of those bodies, and the opportunity passed for reasons you highlighted, and hence why we have seen the emergence of an ICF equivalent. Did we need it? Possibly not, but in the absence of a unified approach, then perhaps the WCN will be able to offer that where the UTR wasn't able to connect the dots, perhaps.
And I think it'll be interesting as we look at the ITF's junior circuit moving forward, utilizing WTN for selection and seeding and however else they choose to use it at the junior level, really will level the playing field internationally for the kids that are choosing to take that pathway.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you genuinely, if you go and play in the States, or if you go and play in France, and all the federations that have bought into, at least, whether they use it as their primary rating, that the data is all going to be harvested in one central, some technical term that I don't know, it's over my head, but it's in that repository. That's the word, repository. And we're going to get very accurate ratings that will enable, whether it's US kind of recruitment, or whether it's cross-country player levels, where we'll start to get a really clear picture of accurate ratings that across from country to country that the UTR has done. But I still think there's silos of players that, sometimes they don't exactly match up. And as you say, I think the bridging between domestic and international events, I think, is quite an interesting one that we haven't seen before. We've seen, the ITF transition tour, and that kind of
fizzled.
Which didn't work.
It fizzled quickly.
It didn't work, actually, but as I understand it, the WTN is going to fill that gap, and will provide a stepping stone from domestic to international at junior, and also at pro level. And that, that can only be a good thing for that kind of unified approach, I suppose.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think anything that aids players in, figuring out where they are in a given moment and figuring out how to get to the next step in the journey is a positive. It's a shame we have to have so much confusion around all of this, but hopefully it will become clear quickly, and the ITF will do a good job at providing information around education on WTN so that people understand it. But as you said, Barry, and I can't stress this enough, it's a number. It is not fully indicative of a player's level. It's a hint at where a player is in their journey, but they're certainly, everybody has good days and bad days on the tennis court. So to let a rating, fully dictate where you play and how you play, probably not the best idea. So
yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. And I think, I've this year I ran an event in partnership with Babolat, the Babolat Cup. And again, it was UTR was used to structure the draws, but we did it based on circuit points. It was like the players following this journey, earning their way from event to event, into a masters event at the end of the year. And I love that. It's like, enter the tournament, and then it doesn't matter what you rated.
That's right.
It's effectively, you earn your way.
Just win. Just win.
And I've got some events going outside of the UK as well, and where I've kind of really tried to establish a culture that has rating very, very much at the background, like not talked about at all, to try and almost impact that culture as much as possible, to be, not the way perhaps it is in this country and in the US, that the thirst for ratings does sit at the forefront of parents and players' minds because of the culture. The funding is often linked to that. The selection of teams is linked to that. And I'm keen to explore that kind of avenue. Is yes, the ratings have a place in some events, but they don't need to be involved in all events.
So just, getting back to what's coming for 2022 and with the Progress Tour and any adjunct events, Are your events open only to UK players, or can anyone sign up and come over and play?
They are open to anyone and everyone. Yeah, I've changed a little bit, I think, from when we last spoke. I was, the cross age, cross gender thing. I was a huge advocate of when I first started, um, and I've since, with the prize money events, I've since split them at the top end. I felt there was
By gender or by level?
by gender, yeah.
Okay.
So they're progressive draws as they were before. They're open to any player above 5 from any country.
Mm-hmm.
I recommend is 5. Like, we'll try and accommodate lower if we can. But I felt that there was some female players that loved it, and it also put some off. And that, that wasn't my goal. The goal was to provide opportunity, earning opportunity for all players. And I kind of, where possible, I tried to split prize money events. It did take more funding to do that, but I'm in a position now where, going towards next year, that all those marquee events will be split men and women, so equal prize money in both. So in answer to your question, it's open to anyone. I think I've got a Czech girl and a girl from Taiwan as our top seeds so far in Cardiff.
Oh, cool.
So,
and
yeah,
how do people find out about the events and sign up for them? And we will have these links in the show notes on parentingaces.com.
Yeah, so it's progresstour.com is the website, and
Easy peasy.
All my links for events are on there. Some of them are run through UTR at the moment, back on the Universal Tennis platform. Some of them are on the Court Hive platform. But yes, the best kind of landing page for all events is theprogresstour.com.
And let me just ask, Barry, for the events that are on Universal Tennis's tournament platform, do those results get reported to WTN as well, or are they staying solely with UTR?
They are. I will run a shadow event, and I will keep ownership of the matches and the results, and I'll send those into the LTA as well for WTN processing.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it's the first event actually in about 3 years that I've run on the UTR platform. So I'm a newbie to all the changes that have come in. So yes, I'll be running the event next weekend and all the forthcoming events are on the UTR platform. So they'll be submitted immediately through them, and then also through the LTA.
Awesome. I love that. Well, anything else I need to ask you about that I don't know to ask you about?
I don't know. I think we've had a good catch up, I think. Yeah.
I think so too. All is good in the UK. Y'all aren't on lockdown at the moment, I don't think. Hopefully it'll stay open through at least the end of the year, holidays, and
yeah, I've got some travels planned the next few weeks, so I'm hoping we'll see what happens with COVID. It's not looking great here at the moment. The news is anything to go by.
Yeah. Well, stay healthy, stay well, keep doing what you're doing. Thank you for continuing to think outside the box and create these opportunities for junior players, aspiring professional players, and existing professional players who are just looking for a way to keep paying the bills.
Thank you very much, Lisa. It's great to chat again.
Here too, and lovely to see you. Best of luck with the new events in 2022, and we'll have to do another catch up sooner than 3.5 years this time.
Yes, definitely. Thanks,
All
Lisa.
right, great. Thank you so much to my listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time on Parenting Aces.